It was just another quiet morning at the police station, until the doors swung open and silence fell. A tiny, injured puppy limped inside, dragging a torn black bag clutched in its teeth. Exhausted and trembling, the little dog refused to let go, barking desperately as if begging for someone to listen. Curious but cautious, officers gathered around, their hands shaking as they pulled the bag open. What they found inside wasn't trash, wasn't random, it was evidence. Evidence from a case everyone thought was long forgotten. In that instant, a routine day turned into the start of a shocking investigation. And the truth hidden inside that bag would leave the entire town frozen in disbelief. The morning began like any other at the small-town police station. Officers chatted over coffee, paperwork stacked on desks, the hum of radios filling the air. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until the front doors creaked open. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was a tiny puppy, trembling, its fur caked with mud and streaked with blood. For a moment, no one moved. The little dog whimpered softly, struggling to pull a black garbage bag nearly twice its size. Its teeth clung tightly to the torn plastic, dragging it inch by inch across the cold floor. Officers rushed forward, startled and concerned. "Where did this little guy come from?" one murmured, kneeling beside it. The puppy dropped the bag and looked up, eyes wide with exhaustion but filled with something deeper, urgency. It barked once, weakly, then nudged the bag with its paw as if demanding they open it. The room fell silent. The sergeant exchanged a wary glance with the others. "Get gloves," he said quietly, "and call the chief." Whatever was inside that bag, it wasn't just trash. Gloved hands trembled as the officer slowly pulled the bag open. The smell hit first, damp earth and something metallic, like rust. A few officers instinctively turned away. The puppy whimpered again, backing up slightly but keeping its eyes locked on the bag, as if it already knew what was inside. The sergeant knelt, his jaw tight. Inside, beneath layers of wet cloth, was something no one expected. A small blanket, tattered, but neatly folded, stained with blood. Next to it, a child's shoe, caked in mud. And beside that, a tiny locket, still glimmering faintly in the light. The officers froze, disbelief spreading across their faces. This looks like evidence," one whispered. The sergeant's pulse quickened. He recognized the locket. It had been shown in missing person reports 2 years ago. A case that had gone cold. The realization hit hard. The puppy hadn't brought garbage. It had brought a clue, a desperate message. The dog barked again, turning toward the door, then back at them, whimpering insistently, as if begging them to follow. The sergeant's voice cracked the silence. "Get the team ready. This isn't over." The little dog had just reopened a case everyone thought was buried forever. The evidence table was covered in silence. Officers stood around it, their faces pale under the flickering fluorescent light. The locket, the shoe, and the blood-stained blanket lay carefully arranged in clear plastic bags. Each item told a fragment of a story, one they didn't yet understand. The sergeant rubbed his temples. "That locket belonged to a girl named Emily Parker," he said quietly. "She went missing 2 years ago. Never found." The room fell still. Every officer remembered that case. The search parties, the news coverage, and the heartbreak when it went cold. The puppy sat near the table, watching them with wide, pleading eyes. One officer knelt beside it. "You brought this to us, didn't you?" he murmured. The puppy let out a small whine and pawed at the floor. Then it turned suddenly toward the door, barking once, tail stiff. The sergeant frowned. "He wants us to follow." The officers exchanged glances, hesitant but intrigued. The dog had already led them to evidence no one else could find. Could it possibly lead them further? "All right," the sergeant said, grabbing his jacket. "Gear up. We follow his lead." As they stepped outside, the little puppy trotted ahead confidently, glancing back every few steps. The morning sun had risen, but the truth waiting ahead would be darker than anyone imagined. The little dog trotted ahead tirelessly, its injured leg limping but determined. Every few minutes, it'd stop, glance back, then continue down the path, as if retracing steps burned into memory. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. None of them spoke. The air was heavy with expectation and dread. After nearly an hour, the puppy turned sharply into the woods. Fallen leaves crunched beneath their boots as the officers pushed through the underbrush. Then, The smell hit them, faint at first, then stronger. Earthy, metallic, the same scent from the bag. Spread out, the sergeant ordered. Flashlights swept across the clearing. Then someone shouted, "Over here!" They gathered near a half-buried mound of dirt beside an old oak tree. The puppy was already there, pawing frantically at the ground, whining with desperation. Officers knelt beside it, digging with gloved hands until the metal edge of another black bag appeared. The sergeant's face went pale. "Call the coroner," he whispered. His voice trembled. The puppy backed away, tail tucked, eyes glistening in the beam of a flashlight. It had led them home, not for itself, but for someone who couldn't. The forest was silent again, but this time, it wasn't peaceful. It was haunted. The officers circled the newly unearthed bag, their flashlights trembling as the beams cut across the forest floor. The plastic was torn in places, dirt clinging to its sides. With gloved hands, the sergeant slowly pulled the zipper open. The moment the bag parted, a wave of silence fell over the group. Inside were bones, small, fragile, unmistakably human. Nestled beside them was the torn remains of a dress, its faded fabric still patterned with tiny flowers. The shoe they had found earlier matched perfectly. A locket, identical to the one in the evidence bag, dangled loosely on a broken chain. One officer turned away, unable to look. Another whispered, voice cracking, "It's her. It's Emily." The puppy whimpered and lowered its head, curling close to the mound of dirt as if mourning. The sergeant's throat tightened. For 2 years, they had searched for answers, and now a tiny dog had uncovered the truth. But as heartbreaking as it was, something didn't add up. The site looked disturbed recently, like someone had tried to move or hide the remains, which meant the person responsible was still out there. The sergeant rose, his jaw clenched. This wasn't just luck. This was a warning. Whoever did this isn't finished. The forest suddenly felt darker, as if it too knew the danger wasn't over. The news spread quickly. A forgotten case, once labeled cold, was suddenly alive again, all because of a puppy who refused to give up. Reporters swarmed the police station, cameras flashing as investigators carried the evidence inside. For the families of the missing, it was a bittersweet moment. Answers had come, but at a heartbreaking cost. The puppy, too small to understand the chaos it had unleashed, curled in a blanket by the sergeant's desk. Officers took turns feeding it, whispering praise, their hardened faces softening each time it wagged its tail. To them, it wasn't just a stray. It was a hero. Forensics confirmed the remains were Emily's, and with that came more questions. Who had left her there? Why had the grave been disturbed? The evidence inside the first bag hinted at more victims, more secrets. A manhunt began, detectives working tirelessly to uncover the monster who had hidden in plain sight. And through it all, the little puppy remained, as though waiting for justice to be served. Weeks later, when the suspect was finally caught, the arrest brought relief to a grieving town. The chief stood before the press, the puppy cradled in his arms, and spoke words that silenced the crowd. This dog gave a voice to someone who could no longer speak. Without him, we would still be searching in the dark. The station officially adopted the puppy, giving him a new name, Justice. From then on, he trotted proudly through the halls, his story reminding everyone of courage, loyalty, and hope. And though Emily's life had ended in tragedy, her spirit lived on, carried by a little dog who refused to let her be forgotten.